Welcome to the Digital Lifestyle Show, show 767. Coming up this week, Gary and Richard are here using Teams Dialin this week because they're spread out remotely, but we've got a great show to put on. We're going to be talking about Surface Duo, Galaxy Note. I've got one of them. Very nice device. We've got Windows 10, Flight Sim, Windows 95 memories, lots of stuff. Let's get straight to Richard and Garry. Richard, welcome back.
Hello. Well, back-ish. I'm kind of
Back-ish.
out and about, and in the land where there doesn't seem to be any internet bandwidth. So please excuse me if I drop off at all. I'm using a telephone. Oh, how nostalgic!
And actually, it's sounding rather good. We're using Teams with the dialing option, which I splashed out on this morning, and it actually sounds quite good. I did wonder whether it would sound like James and Murray doing the F1 commentary from 1982 Monaco Grand Prix. Where they used to sound like they used to have do commentary down the worst telephone line in history, but it actually sounds rather good.
You know what? If I could muster the enthusiasm of Murray Walker, I'd be a happy man.
Yeah, so we all, yeah. There we go, Gary. Good evening.
Good evening. I tried to get in on live on Teams, but wouldn't let me in. So I'm not sure if I've got the current invite or not.
Well, so you're using the phone as well. So it's my £3 subscription for audio conferences money well spent.
Yes, indeed. I mean, and let's face it, we're using an 0898 number as well. So
yeah, it actually sounds.
We're not really. I hasten to add, we're not using one of those.
We're using one of those party chat numbers from. You remember the 1990s party chats?
From the 80s, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Most people, probably most younger people, won't remember those party chat lines.
No.
And sorry, but another tangent I had to throw. If you ever watch Father Ted, there's an excellent scene where there's the priest party chat line. One of my favourite comedies, Father Ted. Anyway, we're not going to be talking Father Ted or Murray Walker or anything else tonight. We've got lots of stuff to fit in tonight because we kind of missed a week last week because we were doing the Donna interview on Power Apps. So we've got some things to talk about. Richard was prompting me to ask certain questions, but I was trying to ignore his.
Yeah, it was a really good show. Not least the discovery that the Windows Insider team had no way of tracking the swag they were handing out, which I did enjoy that anecdote. But it was also I was surprised you guys never asked her about being in charge of the Insider Side of the program just as the October 2018 update hit, which was obviously a sterling success of testing. But you didn't ask for that, which I guess is fair enough because it was a while ago now. So yes. Fair news. But otherwise, yes, it was a very good show. Thanks, guys. It was really good.
I very much enjoyed that, and I went off and played with the chat bot tool, which was actually really, really interesting and really fun thing to make, and really easy to do. And it's just like a decision tree thing that you can make, and then you can sort of link them together. So I created a quick service desk bot that would say, "Oh, what's your problem?" And you could say, "My Outlook," and it would say, "Well, what's happening with your Outlook? Is it crashing, or do you need your password resetting?" And I created these flows for it, and it actually works really well. I think it comes quite expensive when you come to deploy it, but it was a good proof of concept to play around with it from the free account.
Yeah, it's quite expensive because I think 9 out of 10 things are people saying, "I want to talk to a human."
Yeah. What I did notice, though, you could create an excellent text adventure game using that bot.
Yeah, actually, I did one of those last year. I went to I think it was some Microsoft event somewhere, and they had a lab for us to play with the Power Tools and chatbot tech in there, and it was first thing I did was a text adventure game. I couldn't help myself, Ian. It was great.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to do like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy one, the notoriously difficult one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say notoriously, obtusely.
Yes. But it was a great show and a lot of information. So I hopefully it inspires some people to take a look at that and have a play around with those tools.
Yeah, well, I mean they do seem to be the future for an awful lot of corporate work.
Yeah,
Indeed.
definitely. So, what we want to catch up really. So, the things I want to talk about is we haven't talked Surface Duo too much, so we're talking about that. We're talking about my new mobile device, which I'm using, which is the S20, the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, lovely name, with pen and your phone integration. I want to talk about your phone integration because that works brilliantly. It's 25 years of Windows 95, so I'm sure we've got a couple of things we can mention about that. We have some new builds of
don't
Windows.
make me dance.
Sorry, say that again.
As long as you don't make me dance.
Yeah. that video clip that I'm sure most people have seen now, I think will forever be around with it on the internet of it's Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, and some of the other Microsoft guys doing a very dodgy dad dancing at the 95 launch. It's brilliant, that clip. Steve Ballmer gets very excited. We'll talk about flight sim, because I know that was a thing you were interested in, Richard.
Yes, it's yeah, very good.
Yeah. Okay, so we better crack on. We're running time. So let's talk first about the Duo. Last time we were all here and recorded, the Surface Duo hadn't been officially announced, and so since then the Duo has been announced with its pricing, release date, and its specs. Now, I was hoping that it would be some kind of worldwide release, but that isn't the case, is it? Richard, let's start with your thoughts first.
Yeah. Okay. The Surface Duo. Yeah. So I think we'd also came up with some prices as well, hadn't we? And I don't think any of us expected it to be quite the cost it is.
So
the Surface.
Write that down, didn't
Yeah. So the Surface Duo, it kind of leaked out because there was a private event, I think the night before or a couple of days before, and then somebody, I think on the Surface Enterprise team, I can only assume pressed the button early because there were various embargoes and things, and so suddenly the release date and the price and some basic specs about it jumped out of the Microsoft site, which of course we all jumped on with great glee, and saw with our horror, really, that it was indeed as had been leaked, which is and it was, and then obviously more specs came during the course of the day, but basically it is a 900 and. Excuse me, and it's $1,399. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And when we talk pricing, you were closest because you said £1,095. Gary said 995, and I said 990. So Richard, you win that one.
Yeah. So and that gets you basically. I mean, what is? I find it difficult to be too positive about this because it gets you what is effectively, a flagship phone of about 12 to 18 months ago. So it's got a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 in it. It's got 128 gigs of RAM, or you can spend another $100 to get another 128 gigs on top of that. You can't add any more RAM to it. It's not expandable. So that's one side issue. And of course, it does have these marvelous two screens, which in theory gives you an 8.1-inch display with a whole great bezel down the middle, and it runs Android. So it's pretty much as per what we expected were coming. But as I say, it's for that amount of money. I would have really expected it to have had a little bit more in terms of horsepower. And also, when you're dropping that amount of money, you expect the phone to last for 3 or 4 years, and they have committed to 3 years' worth of Android updates, which is good. But of course, it hasn't got 5G, and while 5G means nothing now, when you have a device with not much storage, kind of expecting it, and it's all about the Microsoft services, it's all about the connectedness, you would have really thought that, well, in 3 years' time, I would think 5G services will become more widespread than they are now, and you'd still want this phone to be current, but it's just not. It's an iffy one. I think had it been a bit cheaper, it would have been, a no-brainer, really. Oh, and of course, the other thing is as well, it's US only. So I think had it been a bit less, it would have been a no-brainer. As it is, it doesn't stack up that well against the other phones, really, to be honest. What I also found interesting was seeing the apologists come rolling out through it as well, saying, well, it's an 855, that's a stable processor, that's good, you'll barely notice it. It's like, yeah, you may not notice it now, but again, you're dropping a phone that's got to last for 3 years, so you want to make sure if you spend that amount of cash, it's going to still be a good phone in 3 years' time. So, yeah, I mean, I came away really, I'm pleased to see Microsoft doing something different here, but ultimately, I came away disappointed because I would have hoped for it to have had more bang for what is a lot of bucks.
Yeah. Gary, what about you? What was your sort of thoughts when you saw that?
Overpriced and over there.
That's pretty much what I thought.
I believe I wrote a headline that said underspec, overpriced, and over there. I think I may have written a headline. My apologies for that.
It was a good headline, and I did just rip it off. But yeah, it's very true. It's true. I mean, I just think it's. I mean, we said this up front that it was under-spec'd, and particularly the lack of the NFC stuff on it. I mean, it looks lovely. That's the thinness of the screens and the pocketability, if you've got big pockets. I mean, it looks lovely. It's got a lot of stuff. It's got all that Surface style about, and it is selling well. I mean, if you actually look at the sales in the States, they are selling pretty darn well. So I can kind of see it being the exec to have type thing because it looks good. It's one of those things that I think it's style over substance again.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do hope it goes well. I mean, obviously we'll see what the Surface Duo 2 looks like. But yes, I mean, the sales figures are, I mean, yes, they're looking good, but only looking good, I think, in context of a Surface device, which are normally relatively niche devices anyway.
Yes, yeah, and it's not bulk phone levels, but it's what their production can keep up with, I think.
Yeah. I mean, from my point of view, first of all, I think the key issue probably, apart from the price, and apart from that it's not available, the not available bit was a bit of a not a kick in the teeth, but I did kind of feel like, had it been available, I probably would have got one. I don't really want one that badly that I want to excuse me. I don't want one that badly that I want to necessarily import it from the States. So, but I do feel like Surface, there are Surface fans not just in the US, and they are in the UK and other countries, and so it's a bit like, come on guys. But that's their decision. I can see why they've done it. They've kept it in a very tight group. They don't think it's going to be it's not an iPhone, it's not or a Samsung, a mass market device. So that was a bit disappointing. The price on paper looks expensive when you can look at the specs of it as well, but you are kind of paying for a first gen device. It's not quite a prototype, but it's almost, isn't it? That it's setting probably the trend for the next device that's come, that's going to be probably in much better specs and be probably the device that they hope to sell more of. Probably the issue is with the high price. It's what you said, Richard, is that when you look at it, I don't buy a phone every year. I know some people do, but a lot of us don't want to do that, especially for phones now lasting longer and longer. So if you're paying £1,300 or $1,300, $1,400, you really can't think, oh well, I'll get the Duo 2 next year anyway, so I'll get this one and replace it with the Duo 2 next year. You've got to be thinking that you're going to be keeping the phone for 3 years. And the lack of 5G and the NFC and the camera and all those are just I was just about to mention the 11 megapixel camera, which is, that's just, I hate to say it, but that's just not acceptable on a flagship phone. It really isn't. It's just so bad. But I love the form factor. And like I said, if they'd made it available in the UK, then I probably would have got one, despite those reservations. And I would have, been carrying me bank card around with me as well to get around the NFC, because we all use contactless now. It's pretty much a bad time to release a device without NFC. I know in the States NFC isn't the biggest issue, which is maybe one factor why it is US only.
There's also no wireless charging, is there? So it's
no.
Just, also a shame. Does anyone know how waterproof it is?
No, I'd say probably not very. Although it's very slim and tightly packed in there. It's incredibly slim, that screen, but I still wouldn't expect it to be. It's not mentioned, so therefore I would say it isn't. So it's easy to criticise it for the price, specs, everything else, but I'll admit, I'll hold my hand up and admit, if it had been available up to pre-order that day, I probably would have done so. But I'm probably a special case. And then, like I said, my Pixel 2 has been dying for some time, and the camera wasn't working and everything else. So I was kind of holding out for one of these, but not available. But I think it's going to be a nice device. It's one of those devices you can carry around, and it's going to impress people when you open it up. It's going to have its shortcomings with, like we said, with the camera and the NFC, and the fact that you're going to be carrying this for that price. This is going to have to last you. Well, it doesn't have to, but if I was buying one, it would have to last at least 3 years. Well, the Pixel lasted 3 years, so it's a lot of money for, like you said, a flagship from last year. I know why that's the case, the way that they released it, but it's disappointing for that price, but it's all understandable. But I know there's been a lot of people criticising it from one side, and on the other side, there's been a lot of people, sort of like you said, the apologists on the other side.
Some of it has been. There's been some very harsh criticism. I think it's a little bit unfair. I think if I was to average it out, I'd say probably overall maybe a bit of disappointment. I think many people have been hoping it was going to be better than it is and cheaper than it is. But equally, I've seen some Microsoft staff are saying things like, well, it's bear in mind you've got 2 screens, so technically it should be twice the price of a flagship. It's like, no, I don't think that's how it works with those screens, to be honest. But
it's amazing engineering.
No names mentioned there, but
yeah, the screens and everything looking amazing engineering feat, and I like I said, I would have got one, but I can't, and it's not that good that I would import one.
I mean, if I was to advise anyone who doesn't need to buy a phone now, would be to hang on another year, see what the Duo 2's like, because that would be a demonstration if they're going to commit to it, because there is the other question mark of this is a strange device because Microsoft doesn't make these sort of devices anymore. They have pulled back. So at what point will Uncle Sat have to say, you know what, I think we should probably kill this one off as well? Or is it going to be a thing they're going to focus on as an extension of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem? Giving enterprises yet another device to consume their services on. So I think the Duo 2 could be the one to look out for. Much like HoloLens 2 is vastly superior to HoloLens 1, which was an okay system, but expensive and had problems. Whereas HoloLens 2 addressed almost all those issues, all those complaints, and actually a much better system. So I think next year, next winter 2021 will be the time, I think, to see many of our criticisms addressed. I think I just hope they stick at it, because it is an interesting concept. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, and Gary, I guess it's going to spurn a bit of interest in the dual screen device for app developers.
It is, yeah, and I think that's a good thing. And also, you have to remember that the stuff that Android has been developed for Android for dual screens, Microsoft have contributed to the open source project as well. So it's out there for everybody. For all device manufacturers who want to work a dual screen device can use all that stuff. So even if you did start developing the dual screens now, you're not just developing for the Surface Duo. You've got a bit more market out there potentially.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what people can do with it. I'm a little envious that that I couldn't pick up one, but actually probably it's done me a favour, and it's probably done me a favour by not getting one at this stage.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah.
So what I did do, obviously, I needed to get a new phone. So having gone from a Pixel, I did get a new phone, and I've gone with the new Samsung Galaxy Note S20, Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. It's a lovely name. I like my big phones. And she's certainly a big phone. Actually, it was 2000. I was writing this down the other day. I had the Note 3. Remember when you all scoffed at my Note 3? Yeah. And it was 8 years ago I had that Note 3, and it has I think it was a 5.6 inch screen or something like that. The Note 3. And you all laughed at me. But it turned out to be that's the form factor that people wanted to go to, that sort of big size phones, and that's the route we go. And when you see this phone, it doesn't look particularly big now. This is like I said, 5.9. 6.9. 5.7 was the Note that I had, the Note 3. So 7 years ago. So anyway, so I've got this Note, and a few reasons why I wanted that. I wanted a phone that's going to last me. So the specs on this are pretty impressive. 120 hertz screen, it's got the latest processor on it, wireless charging, NFC, 110 megapixel camera, I think it is. Very impressive camera array on there. It's got 3 cameras on there. Fingerprint reader on the front, which works really well. A gorgeous screen. Screen is absolutely really nice. The S Pen on there for taking notes, and it's very smooth, very fast. one thing I noticed, I've not used a Samsung device for a while, and they've really improved the UI since the Note 3. I always found it very clunky compared to Google's implementations, but actually this is quite nice. And probably the biggest thing I found about it, one of the most interesting things from a Microsoft point of view, is the integration with Microsoft services. Out the box, there's a Microsoft folder on there with all the Microsoft apps in there that you'd expect. Not all of them, but I think it had Outlook and Office and OneNote and that kind of thing. And then, I just added the extra ones in there like Edge and everything. So all the Microsoft services seem to link in with the Samsung apps as well. So if you use the camera app, you can link the gallery with your Microsoft account and OneDrive, so it'll automatically sync them up through that. Outlook's or OneNote's built into it. So when you take the pen, you can have it go straight into Outlook, and you can all the notes sync up with Outlook and everything. I think there's some pieces aren't finished yet, like the built-in Samsung Notes app doesn't sync with Outlook with OneNote yet, but it's coming. But it works really well with all the services, OneDrive, and you get a bit of extra storage with OneDrive, the usual thing that you do with Samsung. So I found from a Microsoft point of view, it works really well, and I'm using Outlook, I'm using Edge, I'm using OneDrive on there, and the Office applications, and everything integrates really well. It's very impressive, but probably the most impressive thing that is the Your Phone app with Samsung phones. So I think this is most of the recent Samsung phones, the S20 and the S10, I think, included. But as in the Your Phone app, you've got messages, notifications, but you also get, and I'll do this for the video viewers. I'll fire this up and share my screen. You also get an app section. So I don't know if you've seen this on any of the videos, but the app section is you just see all your Android apps that are installed on the phone, and then you can just launch them directly from the Windows 10. So it launches in a phone-size window, a little separate phone-size window. But that works quite well. You can pin apps to the start menu or to your taskbar. So one example I'm using for is the thermometer that I'm using for my greenhouse. There isn't a Windows app. There's no web version of it either. And so, yeah, I just use it through there. And so if I want to check the temperature of the greenhouse, I just launch it through the Windows app. You don't have to get the phone out of the pocket. It just works. Now you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network, I think. So because I'm on a LAN on one device and on a different Wi-Fi, I can't show you on my screen at the moment. But when I've been at work, they're on the same network, and it works really well. So you can leave your phone in your pocket, and you can interact with the apps. It works really well with the Surface because of the touchscreen, so you can use the apps. The touch sort of passes all the way back through. If you use it with the Surface Go in portrait mode, you just get giant Android apps on it as well. So it's like a giant Android tablet, which works quite well. You can't multitask. You can't have multiple apps open at once. You can switch between them, but you can't have like two windows. So you couldn't have one app on one pane and another pane with another app. It just shows one at a time. But apparently they are going to be enabling that in the future.
Yeah,
I think
I said that's for the Galaxy 20 Ultra, isn't it? That's going to be enabled for in the future.
Yeah.
But you still get, but even though you can't multitask the apps, you do still get the notifications, things like WhatsApp messages or SMS all come through. So you can just click on those and go into the app, presumably. Yeah,
it works brilliantly. And one use I found is the Authenticator. So when you're signing into stuff, you obviously get your phone out of your pocket, because I use the Microsoft Authenticator app, and I've got it pinned to the start menu now, so I just open it up and use it through there. A tip, if you want to do that as well, is by default the Authenticator app doesn't allow screen capture, which makes sense from a security point of view. So you find you get a black screen when you open the Authenticator. I had to go and turn that allow screen capture in the Authenticator app for that to work. But all the Android app work. It's super smooth as well. There's hardly any lag at all. So the touchscreen works brilliantly to control it. Obviously, if the phone's locked and you need to enter do your fingerprint, if the phone's in the pocket, you can use your PIN to unlock it. If the phone's on your desk next to you, you can still unlock with your finger. and you just displays on the screen. You don't have to display a single app as well. You can open the whole phone screen and just have have your phone mirrored on the PC as well. So it works really well. All the apps work on it. There's no special. It's not the best way of working of using Android apps on Windows 10, but effectively, if you've got an Android phone anyway, then it just means that you can run Android apps on Windows 10. Because perhaps you think, oh well, perhaps it should be native to run on the PC, but then the phone's sat in your pocket doing nothing anyway. But why not use that processing power? And it doesn't seem to use a lot of battery either.
Good. Nice.
Yeah, it's very cool. I use it all the time with my S10, so it's really cool. Hasn't quite got as much as the S20 Ultras have got in terms of some of that stuff which is coming soon, because I think the multitasking won't work on mine, but the rest of it works really well.
Yeah, things like the wearable app, or that you would, or the Samsung Health app or whatever. The things that you can't get in Windows, just work on there. You, like I said, you can pin them and everything else. So super smooth. So far I've been really enjoying the Note 20. It's kind of, because I'm not using the 5G or anything like that at the moment, but hopefully it will be in the future, and then this phone will last me a bit longer. So battery life seems good as well. Everything is super smooth to use. Camera's brilliant. So I'm really enjoying that. A very nice phone, and the S Pen. It's good to have the pen back. I do like that pen, and I have even just going in. Making notes when I'm in the server room, and he's like, what port's this cable? I know it's on port 52. You just get pen out, write down 52 on the screen. You don't even have to turn it on. It just, you can use it as like a notepad. And very, very nice. So I've got more to play with it, to learn about it, but I'm enjoying it. And like I said, all Microsoft services work brilliantly. So I'm really, really impressed with that.
But this is presumably just to double check, this is still a Windows Insider version of it. You wouldn't be getting the app access on the release version.
No, it's gone out now. Yeah,
it's gone out now. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's it. Everyone's got that. It's not just the inside. I think it was this week. The end of last week that it went out.
Oh, great. I'm on my hole, you see, so I'm a bit out of touch.
Yeah, so I'm very, very impressed with that. Really nice phone, and the camera is superb. You can sort of zoom in on a picture. It's fantastic. So it's nice to have a camera again on the phone. Actually, I actually realised how much I missed it. So yeah, I can go back to taking pictures of my tomatoes again now.
Tomatoes and homebrew.
Yeah, homebrew. Yeah, and I've got a ton of cases to review from Mobile Fun. So I've got about 10 cases to try out. So a video of that to come. Right. What else are we going to do? Oh, one other thing for Inside. Well, not necessarily it's been available for Inside, but available for everybody now. I know something you're interested in, Richard, is WSL 2's being backported.
Yeah, that was really cool, actually. That's. I mean, it came as, I guess, I don't know if you guys were aware it was coming, but it surprised me when it happened. So yeah, obviously the WSL2 is the kind of VM Hyper-V light kind of version of Windows subsystem for Linux. And if you're a coding nerd like myself, then it lets you effectively run a Linux distribution on Windows, except without having to use the full-on Hyper-V. And version 2 was great because it brought actually a proper Linux kernel into Windows as well, so many more things would work properly, which is great. Then the problem is, of course, you needed Windows 10 2004 to run it, which was less good because, of course, many developers use enterprise or corporate machines that won't see 2004 for quite some time, or if at all. So what's happened is they've managed to backport it. Now, I knew they were breaking it out of the core Windows, Windows-based image, so I gather it wasn't that tricky to do. Because it was already, it had already been broken out of Windows to a certain extent. So you can now, if you wish, just add it to Windows 1909, 1903, including the home editions, which makes it accessible for many, many more people. And of course, the original WSL1 still works, because there are occasions where you would want to still use WSL1, notably if you're accessing the local file system or things like COM ports. It doesn't seem to work too well through WSL2 at the moment. I know file system access, there's a definite issue because you are hopping across a virtual machine boundary, which causes all kinds of issues. And I know the guys are working on fixing that. But backport of that came out of the blue to me anyway. But it was a very happy bolt from the blue. I know it's made a lot of people happy, particularly those trying to use things like Docker and what have you. Which obviously that's going to all now work properly on Windows 10 Home.
Yeah, it's good it's good that, and I think that's one of the benefits they have of doing this decoupling of everything based off the OS and being given that flexibility, and they must have the confidence it'll run, and they managed to backport it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are some things which they're still talking about. One of the benefits, I think it's only on the Insiders version of WSL2. I think, again, guys, please correct me if I've got this wrong. But things like GPU access, which you need to do any heavy-duty lifting in terms of AI or machine learning or pattern recognition stuff. People like to use GPUs now, and you can access those through WSL2 using the Windows Insider version. That hasn't been backported yet, but they say they're working on it. It's there's no definitive roadmap, but it's coming at some point. So that again would be very useful because again, there's lots and lots of little apps and things that you run on the Linux to do machine learning and pattern recognition, what have you. So it's an exciting thing. I'm very pleased to see. I mean, Gary, I don't know if you've had any feedback from the developer side on it.
That's very, very well received that it's going to be available to more than just the latest versions. I think particularly because a lot of developers aren't able to move on to the latest versions of Windows because of corporate policies.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Now, for Windows Insider, we've had a couple of builds. I don't think it could take us too long to talk about the changes in these builds. We had one last week that had a new setting for disk management, so you didn't have to use the MMC that crashes every time I try it on my Surface Go. I did get it to work on the Hyper-V image, but it's very basic, I would say. But they did say it was designed for accessibility, which not particularly UI prettiness, but accessibility.
Yeah. The two builds. I mean, the one with the storage that was 20197, I think, which I kind of painted a big crosshair on my back with that one because they did tweet out earlier in the week that they'd hit some sort of showstopper bug, and so would probably not be releasing it. But never say never. So I thought, okay, well, I shall write that up then. And then literally minutes after I pressed the publish button, it pinged up saying, "New one's out. Here it is." Yeah, and as you say, the main change in there is the storage stuff, which I have to say, I don't know. I mean, I was initially quite excited about it, and then I did manage to get it up and running, and it felt awfully basic and a bit hokey compared to what you can do in what is admittedly the very old-looking MMC snap-in, which we've obviously been using for many, many years. It's good to see these things moving into one place, I'd say. But I'm not sure I'd trust it yet, if I'm honest. Maybe a few more builds, perhaps. But of course, as we keep saying, it's a preview build. It might go wrong. Use it at your own risk.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
And the other one, which I did get a good stick for, was before that there was a build 20190, I think, which is where I think they did bag on a bit about, I think, around there, the Orphone thing. But that also contained the what we may have broken screen, where when you now boot up Windows, I think we usually get Edge and things that pop up. They're now going to show the Tips app to give you a better idea about what's changed in this latest build, which is great. But I would think most insiders probably are able to look at the Windows Insider blog anyway. So maybe they're trialing that to make things easier for new Windows users, perhaps.
Yeah, and they've actually took that off again now. They're back on the browser again.
Has it gone again now?
Yeah, they said it was just an experiment for that one build. It makes sense, though, for when the update is done on a general release rather than insiders, so that there's it's easily to see, for the average user, suddenly a new build turns up, they don't, because it's all automatic, isn't it? So you do an update and all of a sudden you've got a new version. So it's probably handy to have a tool for that.
Yeah, and the other thing that they popped in as well, which is actually quite useful, is they made it easier now to specify which GPU which app should use, which I think is, if you've got a system that's got multiple GPUs, you may want to force it to go on certain paths for certain games and things, which I think is a handy thing. Also, on the insider side, I've not seen it in any official channels yet, but have you guys heard about 20H2 popping up in certain places? I mean, I know they released it for commercial testing. But I've heard a few mutterings about 20H2 appearing in the release preview ring and other places, which indicates it's probably very close now.
Yeah, a fellow insider had it appear on a release preview machine, and but no one else seems to be able to replicate it. So I guess it's very close.
Yeah, they just. I mean, to be fair, there's not much in it, is it really? So I guess September would make sense. It's just a glorified update. And I mean, one thing they said in the commercial pre-release stuff is, I think they've dropped in all the things they intend to put into 20H2 as up to the last June cumulative update. Because obviously they've been updating the 2004, and then all they do is they just switch it on when 20H2 comes out. So you'll get, I guess, the new start menu and the other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So it sounds as though they're probably almost there and have been almost there for a while.
Yeah, I think so. I think the new UI is the biggest change that a user would see. The clear background. But I think that it must be due fairly soon, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think so. Is 20H2 the one that finally gets rid of old Edge completely, and everyone's going to have the new Edge? Yes, that's the other change that people might notice if they aren't using Chrome.
Yeah, and you might be looking. You might get the old vertical tabs that I've got, which I love.
Oh, do you? I'm not a fan. Not a fan. not for me. Thanks.
I would have them on all devices, but only some of the device. Only one actually. The Surface laptop on now has picked that change up.
Yeah, but you're the kind of guy who likes to have who will buy a pair of jeans based on how big his phone is. So
even bigger now with the thanks to the 6.9-inch Note.
Yeah.
Now, something that me and Gary talked about, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, is the flight sim. And I know, Richard, you're a bit of a fan of these, so we haven't talked to you about this for a while. So have you bought a new video card?
Not as yet, no. In fact, I'm going to put this plea out now. Could anybody taking pictures of flights in 2020 on Twitter, could they please include their machine spec, just so you know what kind of graphics card you were using and machine spec to achieve those screenshots? Because, yeah, I need to buy a new graphics card and probably some more storage and maybe some more RAM as well. And I'm agonising on what to buy, really.
Yeah, it does look a bit. I think that's what I've seen people saying. It's pretty beefy specs that you need to run the machine, but the visuals look pretty impressive.
It looks astonishing. Yeah, I mean, astonishing. I've got a colleague who streamed some playthroughs, and it was just the level of landscape detail is just unprecedented, really.
I know, Gary, we were talking about it the other week, but it seems to be bumped up sales of PC hardware.
Well, it's good. I mean, I mean, maybe okay. So perhaps the Bitcoin bubble may have burst a bit, but Nvidia's got to sell those cards somehow.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot of people scrambling, building them up, and of course you can get the G2 and fire up your Windows Mixed Reality headset if you get a decent graphics card, and you'll be able to enjoy it in VR. And I think it's in October, isn't it? Oh yeah. So Oculus now require to sign in with your Facebook account, don't they?
I think it's if you're a new user, you've got to link your Facebook account. If you're an existing user, I think you've got 2 months leeway, I think, before you'll be forced to do something. But yeah, it's basically pushing. It's not a surprising move, but it's when Facebook obviously own Oculus, so it's basically pushing people into using their Facebook account, their Facebook login for everything. So I guess they're merging the systems together in a way that's quite clear, it's quite obvious, which they're entitled to do. But I would think. I'm just not sure if Facebook is the halo brand you'd want to have around your headset. I wonder if that will see a spike in HTC sales.
I think Facebook isn't really a brand that you associate with Oculus, as in the Oculus hardcore Oculus fans probably aren't really. They're quite happy that Facebook invested in it, but not probably want to hook it up.
Yeah.
But it could be worse. You could have to link your TikTok account when you get your G2 anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
You can do TikToks. It's good. Did you hear that? I think one of the other companies looking into the running of maybe purchasing that was Oracle.
Yeah, Oracle.
Yep. Yeah.
So how are they going to monetize that? I don't know.
I mean, well, it'll be like per video licensing per second per. They'll probably do it if I know Oracle.
Per person. Yeah. How many people have you got in this shot?
Exactly. So you're licensed to share this video with 50 people. Oh, we're so mean about Oracle. Yes, yeah. So I mean, I wonder a little bit about maybe TikTok's got some very good PR people, perhaps, because there are some very strange rumors going around that.
Yeah. I was talking about flight sim. One of the PCs I played flight sim on was probably a 286. I think a Microsoft Flight Sim on a 286. Maybe CGA mode. But it also, I also played it on a very early Windows 95 machine as well. And Windows 95 is 25 years old as we record this week.
Yeah, it's hasn't time flown by, and people still love that. I remember when that start menu appeared, and everyone moaned about the loss of Program Manager for the start menu, and now people whinge about the start menu non-stop in Windows 10.
Yeah, and Gary, were you were developing apps then, weren't you? For developing, they weren't even called apps at that point, were they?
Programs, folks, programs.
Yeah,
programs.
Yeah. Because I think it was also the launch of Visual Basic 4, wasn't it, as well at the same time?
Yep. Yeah. Maybe.
Which is where I really got into. I did a bit of playing about with VB3, but really VB4 was when I really got into it. But that whole shift, wasn't it, from Windows 3.1 and DOS to Windows 95, it really did feel like a leap forward. I remember at the time, first tinkering around with Windows 95 and installing it on floppies. Was it 27 floppies it was on or something like that?
Yeah.
Plus print drivers, which were on another two, I seem to remember. But it felt like the operating system of the future, and it's amazing how much of that has actually stuck around, isn't it? With the start button is still where it was 25 years ago.
The taskbar's all still there. Yeah, the taskbar. I mean, really, you can move from Windows 95 to Windows 10, and it all feels very familiar. Well, that's a good thing or bad thing. I don't know. Actually, I was going to mention about Visual Basic. You mentioned Visual Basic for the VB3. I mean, that was a really good attempt at Microsoft to democratize coding, because up until that point, writing a Windows app would require some fairly scary either Pascal or C++ stuff. Now, I mean, thinking about power stuff you talked about last week, do you think there's a danger that there could be a situation in the future where there's loads of power stuff that's been put together, much like VB code 25 years ago, that lingers on and embeds itself in an enterprise and can't be picked out even after the thing itself is no longer supported, and causes like a backwards compatibility headache for people?
It is actually one of my slight fears with Power Apps is that it does totally rely on the platform remaining, which could be an issue if Microsoft decided to don't want to do Power Apps anymore. Let's move on to something, go do something else. Because it's all part of your Office 365 subscription, effectively.
Yeah. No. Yeah, but Windows 95, it was great.
I remember, just pre-Windows 95, and even just after, because my most experience it was getting games running, because we used it a little bit at work, but it was a bit new at that time. So it was, at work, it was the first. I worked for an EPOS company, and they were sort of DOS and bit of Windows 3.1 and what was the Novell NetWare? Was it Novell NetWare? Yeah.
Yeah, Novell NetWare.
Yeah. And Windows 95 came along, and you got the TCP/IP, and suddenly you could make a really flexible network, and you can stack these these things would connect together. I think it was Doom that probably was the thing that came out around that time as well, and it all felt like it was really future. But just the fact that you were booted this thing up and it launched Windows, and you didn't, if you wanted to go to DOS, you had to load it as a program. No start, no batch files or command.com and autoexec.bat. You didn't have to worry about memory. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I used to have, I think back on 3.1 days with games, like I think X-Wing used to need high mem, and another game used to use was it EMM386? Was another memory driver. And I had to have you'd have about 3 or 4 different auto exec and config systems, wouldn't you? Just so that you could get these different things to work.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many things about it, and also you use a config to set things at IQ settings for bits and pieces, and trying to eke out as much base memory as you could possibly get. So some things would demand 620k base memory full start. So to really tinker with auto exec to make sure things were loaded in a very careful way. Yeah.
Sound drivers and things before Windows 95 came along. Each game potentially had to set its own sound up and sound drivers.
Although, to be fair, I mean, Windows 95 hardware support was a little bit hokey out the box. It wasn't really until OSR2 came out, which I think had all the USB stuff that began to work properly by then, and then things really changed, I think. And and it just improved over time. Windows 98 lingered for a very long time, very long time.
It was IE2 that came out, wasn't it? When you got the plus pack.
It was I think it was IE1 that was the plus pack. I think, and that wasn't that Spyglass, I think.
Yeah.
The Mosaic thing. So but IE2 came out pretty fast after that. But I think IE3 was the first one that was more or less usable, and was and I think it was just flashing back now. I missed the pinball game in that plus pack. Where's the pinball game?
That was great.
Now?
That was fantastic.
Bring back the pinball game.
Yeah, definitely.
And you had the sounds pack as well, which I remember, and the screensavers and things. The plus pack, we've talked about plus pack before. They need to bring back Windows 10 plus pack. They need to bring one out.
Yeah, and also bring back the Power Toys to the point where you can do all the horrible things that Power Toys would do on Windows 95. Because Tweak UI, even now, I have nightmares about that system. That program, the damage users could do with Tweak UI without being careful. Whereas current Power Toys, they're very lovely, but you can't damage a system anywhere near as much as you could back in those days.
Yeah, I've got fond memories of Windows 95, and Gary, I guess you would have seen like a big jump then in apps being developed for the GUI rather than previously maybe a lot of DOS stuff, and then at that point you saw the jump to coming up with GUI interfaces. Yeah,
GUI interfaces were starting to become a big thing. You started getting other programming languages appearing, which was because you could start targeting it. I mean, that was the start of time when sort of things like Power Builder came around, if you remember that. And so it wasn't just the Visual Basic stuff that was all coming out. And yeah, I mean, before that point, it was a lot of stuff was text-based, and then suddenly it wasn't anymore. It's very much mouse and key and screen stuff. So excellent improvements, and yeah.
Hyperterminal.
Yeah.
Hyperterminal. Oh, happy days.
Oh yeah. It's amazing. 25 years. It seems like a lifetime ago, but in some respects, and other respects, it's gone very quickly.
Yeah.
We will be having the same fun talk about what's the next thing so when's ME was 1999, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think probably it'll be NT4. I think NT4 was another fairly major milestone because again that and Windows 2000 linking on in data centers for a very long time. But NT4 I think was you had Windows NT suddenly with a more consumer friendly interface, and of course we all know that NT went on to become what we're using today. So I kind of think NT4 for me feels like the next big milestone. Yeah. Because 98 was kind of a jazzed up version of Windows 95. NT4, that was a interesting time as they shunted more things out of the kernel into the kernel, and then all the lovely layered stuff began to be broken down to make it basically usable for consumers.
Yeah, NT4, and of course, don't forget you can upgrade from NT4 to Windows 10.
You can indeed.
If only
there was a video to show us that.
Yeah, definitely. So you can watch that video. Amongst many others, I've got some smart plugs on there, and I've got the video of the thermometer and hydrometer that I've got in the greenhouse. I've got some more smart stuff for greenhouses as well, and smart home in general. I think we talked about SwitchBot before, the little switches that will flick your switches on and off. So I've got some of them to test next.
Excellent. I was thinking, actually, go back to your videos of the upgrade. Have you thought about maybe doing a sort of Windows NT to Windows 10 in 4.5 minutes, and doing it to the BBC Radiophonic Workshop tune that was played during the London to Brighton train ride thing that they did. Oh
yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, I'll have to have a look at doing that.
I did have one last question to ask you guys. Basically, all about our Android stuff. As you know, I've got an iPhone and an Apple Watch. I've got an Android phone as well, which I have to say, being a Windows 10 user, I do use your phone a lot. But the problem is the Apple Watch means I kind of stick with the iPhone. So if I was to move to an alternative smartwatch, what would be a good one to go with my Android Galaxy S10?
Well, you've also got the Galaxy Watch, which Ian uses.
Which I'm just showing on the screen now, yeah.
Yeah, and the latest version of that. I'm always a bit... I mean, I know the Apple Watch is equally short on battery life. I just don't like the battery life of those sort of watches. My favourite one at the moment is either the Honor Magic Watch or Huawei GT2, which is exactly the same watch in terms of a nice looking sort of watch you can actually wear. If you want something which looks like an Apple Watch, the Amazfit GTS.
No, I don't.
Brilliant.
No, I don't want this.
If you want something which looks like a normal watch, then I don't think the Huawei watches. I mean, in terms of, if you want to try something really cheap, you could try the one I was talking to about a couple of weeks ago, which I'm actually really impressed with, which is the Halo LSO2, which is a whole £24 at the moment, and does virtually everything you could want to do.
Well, yeah. On the other extreme, sort of the other side, I've got Wear OS, which is the TicWatch, and I've had the Motorola, and then I've got the Samsung Galaxy Active, and I really like the Active compared to the Wear OS. I like the hardware, the Wear OS design, but Wear OS is terrible compared to the Galaxy, and the Galaxy works so well. It does fitness tracking, it does your sleep tracking, it does heart rate, stress levels. I think the new one, the Active 2 or the Watch 3, in the US market, they've got ECG. It's waterproof. You can, it's got swim detection, things like that. You can actually lock the screen so that the swimming doesn't affect it. It's got nice notifications. I really like it. So the downside is exactly what Gary says, battery life. I charge mine probably for an hour every evening. And that's enough that keeps it going. You can stretch it to 2 days, and then it takes probably an hour and a half to 2 hours the following day. But it works very well with Android, obviously, and Samsung devices. So it's definitely the one I would go over Wear OS. Wear OS looks, on paper, it should be great. It's Android, it should be the best experience, but it's not. It's poor battery life on them, and I think the processors are a bit slow. It's got more apps though. So third-party apps, but there's a very nice Outlook app for the Samsung devices as well. I tend not to use a lot of apps, but I use it, for the fitness tracking. I use it for sleep tracking and for notifications. It works great. So I really like the Samsung. I think the Active 2 is the new one, and then you've got the Watch 3, which is nice as well. So a couple £100. Yeah, so they're a bit more expensive than you. So, but in terms of if you're kind of replicating that, the Apple Watch, then that's probably the closest you'll get.
Interesting.
Yeah, so so I definitely look at the Samsung ones, and if you've got a Samsung phone, everything just sort of sits very nicely. But I used it with the Pixel XL, no problem. You have to download about 3 Samsung apps, but that's about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so check that out. Right, so I think that's just about the time we've got for this week. It was good to have you back, Richard, and Garry, it's good to get you back on again. Even if we did use the dialing option on Teams, I think it worked quite well, though.
It did, actually.
Yeah.
Not quite sure why I can't see the actual normal link for Teams, but there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
We'll figure that out in time for next week's show. Richard, are you back home next week?
Yeah, my travels are over. I am back in Brighton once more.
All right, so we should be back on video next week, same time, same place. So, Richard, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Richard_Speed.
And Garry, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Garry WMA, 2 R's and Garry. And I won't be here next week because I'm going to be catching a flight to Berlin.
Oh my goodness me!
Yeah.
Why?
The first in-person event I've done since all this stuff kicked off. So yeah,
Wow.
it's going to be interesting to see how they handle all that.
I'm curious.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
Wow. Okay. Good luck.
Yeah, I do feel like the Wizard must have good luck.
Yeah, well, hopefully you'll be back the week after. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Oh, and
Fine.
don't forget on Twitter you've got the links to your iPace channel, and you've got a lot of videos up on there. So
I
make sure people
have
check out.
indeed. Yep, 750 subscribers now. I was so impressed with that. When I started, I thought I'd get 100. That was about it. I thought 100 would be fine.
Brilliant. Well, Richard, what's he going to do now? He's going to charge his what?
He's going to charge his jag.
So you're going to charge the jag.
Jag.
Richard,
Make the hamsters run faster. Hamsters run faster.
Get back to your holiday. To appreciate you taking time for your holiday to join us, and we'll be back next week. And Gary, stay safe.
Yeah, I will. I might dial in for Berlin. I'll let you know.
Okay. Thanks to Rich and Gary. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Don't forget to check out my videos. You can find them on our YouTube channel, all the note stuff as well. See you next week.